everybody. I see anyone comes on. This is not quite going to be the video I intended it to be, but this is going to be a quick video. If you've been familiar with me in the past, you've seen my previous content. Hold on a second. There we go. So you'd probably be familiar with Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 8 to 9. The two verses that caught my attention, that began my research. Because at the time it's still the case, and even now, it doesn't really matter to me if God is real or not. But my primary concern was, why is it that Yahweh inherited Israel? A land in which he was supposed to have chosen for himself, but apparently inherited it from another God. I want you to think about that for a minute. How can Yahweh be the ultimate judge if he inherits from another God? This really gets quite nicely tied into the flood of hellfire for not believing in God. Because if God inherited, which according to the book of Deuteronomy he did, and the book of Deuteronomy is in the Bible, so that's definitely a big problem for the Abrahamic religions, all three of them, because even the Quran says in Surah Ali Imran chapter 3 verse 180 that Allah has a heritage. So it's not just in the Torah, the Tanakh, the Bible, but it's also even in the Quran. So Yahweh or Allah has a heritage or inherited. The only difference is in the Bible, it states which God he inherited it from, which was the Most High, which is not supposed to be the same God as Yahweh in this situation. So, since God would obviously have a father, according to their very own Bible, by admission, if you just Deuteronomy chapter 42 verse 8 to 9, so all you have to do is read those two verses, you'll see what I'm talking about. But that means that God has a father that could overrule the flood of hell. So if someone were to come to me and say Yahweh is supreme, his word is final, how can his word be final if he's got a father? So that's definitely a big problem. And the Abrahamic religions all strive on the idea that Yahweh is the ultimate judge. If all you have to do is take the ultimate judge out of his character, he'll have no worshipers. Because despite all of his power, it's him being the ultimate judge that causes people to fear him. Some people say, well, I don't fear him because, like I felt his presence or some crap like that. But I guarantee you take the ultimate judge thing out, you take the point of worshiping out. It's done. Because that's what most people fear about him. No, everyone worships him because of fear. Granted, most of them do. Most of them do. But even those that, don't worship him because of fear. They worship him because of his power. They think that he's done things for them. Well, the thing is, how can you distinguish one God from answering the prayer of another person? There are some Hindus that believe Vishnu gave them what they wanted. They got a job. Oh, it must have been because of Vishnu, Krishna, Shiva, or whatever, or Brahma, or whatever Hindu god they subscribe to. Worship. The Chinese person could be praying to the Jade Emperor and he got a job. The thing is, just because you have certain accomplishments doesn't necessarily prove the God that you believe in. Even if there was no other religion but yours that existed at all, that still doesn't mean that God did anything for you. Now, in the end, this is one thing that's very important to remember. Since Yahweh has a father, according to the Bible, and before the Bible, by the way, because Yahweh started out as a Iron Age god of war. Well, let's just put it this way. He started out as a god of war. He'd be the equivalent of other war gods in the same position in the pantheon as he is. And he had a bunch of siblings. He was the son of the supreme god El, the original god of Israel. So the thing is, this is another thing I want to point out here before I end this video. In the book of Numbers, I don't remember where it says this, Yahweh is the same every day, tomorrow, today, every day, present, past, future, past, present, future. Something like that. Well, since he was not always the supreme God, he'd had a father. Has a father. And that means that there was a change in his character that occurred later. That he was elevated to supreme being. Contradicting what the book of Numbers states. Just give me one second. I'm gonna go look up where it says that real quick, because I don't remember where it says it. Still trying to find it. If I remember correctly, I'm gonna give up looking it up. I think it's somewhere in Numbers 23. I think, if my memory serves me well. Doesn't matter where it is. Just look it up and you'll find it yourself. So that means God changes. And in Christians, they think that God went from a genocidal entity into an all-forgiving entity. Which, by the way, he pretty much substituted that for the foot of hell anyway. So despite his niceness, he still is pretty much a very immoral entity. So much for a change. I hardly call that an improvement. So, in my opinion, he actually got worse in the New Testament, because now you have original sin as well. Original sin and hell on top of that. So there's that. That's pretty much all I got to say.